I'll be your dungeon master for tonight. You kick into the door, it swings open and crashes into the hag's head, accidentally killing her. You gain 600 XP.
You're supposed to say, I'm Jay first. You have to start with I'm Jay.
No, I don't. They know who I am.
No, they don't. That's the point of the intro. Okay, now he's actually recording.
Craig, you suck.
So the long story short is that we gave Craig a message, and Craig lost the message on his way to deliver it to everybody. So we have to write a new message. Also, we decided that Craig's a bard.
That is true. Yep, full orc bard.
And it's funny how we bring this up again now. He's a full orc bard, and I saw a couple posts today about how people who play bards don't necessarily have to always play bards that perform or play musical instruments. And I thought that title to the article was funny. I didn't read the article past that because I found it funny because you have to play an instrument. That's your casting focus. So yeah. I guess you could always choose a different one later on.
Well, singing I think technically counts for bardic abilities. So you can do it without a musical instrument. Reciting poetry, storytelling, these are all bardic abilities.
But so the way I envision Craig as a bard is, he also has the sage background. So he's a bard with the sage background. So he's our scribe.
Yes. Yeah, he is our scribe.
And I'm just envisioning him screaming out war cries as his bardic way of casting spells.
Yeah, if you were a barbarian, that's what you would do. That is definitely what you would do.
But he's not a barbarian because he's not big enough to be a barbarian.
He's a full orc. He could be a barbarian.
Yeah, but he's still just a little too small.
Is he gonna multi-class him when he gets higher level?
Yeah, maybe the cleric.
Yeah, I think 2 levels in barbarian.
So
next year, next year we'll actually have a character sheet put together for Craig, fully finished.
I'm gonna start one this week.
It's just gonna take us that long to come up with his story arc.
Yep. So we're re-recording this episode because we recorded one last night and Craig died a few times. We rezzed him, literally, and
everything sounded like you were working at a Wendy's drive-thru.
Yeah. So we have to re-record everything. And the topic of the conversation that we had last night, which I can easily repeat tonight because nothing has changed in the 12 hours that have passed.
Remember this, fans. We're doing this for you guys.
So our topic of discussion was, I hate rogues.
That was your topic of discussion, yes. You hate rogues.
I hate rogues. I hate playing rogues, and I would never suggest someone to play a rogue. And that's mostly because I just don't seem to click well with the class, even though I'm trying really hard to make it work right. So the frustrations that I'm running into are, we're still very low level. So I don't really have the full kit available to the rogue. And I'm just not able to be in a position where I can move in, attack, and move out and survive that encounter. If I get caught in melee next to somebody, even with the current damage mitigation that I have, I'm still like 1 or 2 shots and I'm dead. And I love playing glass cannons. I love playing wizards that just stand in the back and just blow out huge DPR and
the hell is DPR?
Damage per round.
Never heard it. I've always heard it as damage per second, but I guess that's just a World of Warcraft analogy.
That's an MMO term, DPS. DPR is definitely more tabletop because that's how much damage can you do in a single round.
Somehow all these years I've never heard it.
Well, you don't go on the internet at all.
That is mostly true, yes.
So that kind of... So I like playing glass cannons.
What's this brand new Reddit thing people are talking about?
I have a Hotmail account. Does that count?
Hotmail. I'm still on Yahoo Mail.
Yahoo is after Hotmail,
Same time period.
maybe. So I like playing glass cannons that are at range, and if something gets up on me and I die in a round or two, I get it. I fully understand it. That's just the life of being a glass cannon. I played a glass cannon.
That is absolutely a rogue. Very much glass cannon. You get in, you sneak attack, you run the hell away, rinse, repeat.
But I have no way to run the hell away because everything that we are engaging with in the combat is at least 30, 40 feet away. So I can double move to get in, but then take an op attack to move out. And our DM is very
take a few levels of monk. You'll be fine. Or
our DM
barbarian.
is very
Go ahead.
Yeah, our DM is very gracious with the bonus action hide, but I'm wasting my bonus action to do other things, and it's just not clicking for me. And you had brought up after I griped very similarly last night about how players get typecasted, or players have a certain typecast that they like, and I am traditionally always the fighter. So
I refer to it as typecasting because that's the analogy everybody understands. But everybody has classes they just click with, things that are, it just works better for everybody. Like you, it's definitely the fighter type or paladin, barbarian, something of that nature that's just swinging a big ass weapon and hitting things.
And it can take a big ass amount of damage.
Right. For me, I'm 100% typecast as some sort of a spellcaster. It's what I've been playing consistently for 20, 30 years at this point, no matter what game it's in.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'll go off brand and try to play some melee character, but those never really and truly click for me. I played the barbarian in our pirate campaign for a good 6 months. I don't know, we're level 8 or 9, and it was finally starting to sink in as to what I'm doing, but it still just never felt right, as it were.
Yeah. Well, I guess the frustrations that I had with the rogue is, probably a lot to do with just the level that we are. Starting off at level 1 is always rough because you don't have access to your full kit. But I had got to like level 3 and things got a little bit better. I got a few abilities like Zephyr Strike that helped not waste my bonus action with disengaging and to avoid opportunity attacks, and that's helped quite a bit. I'm kind of getting the hang of it, but still, this whole idea of putting all my damage into sneak attack and then just having it be D6s, and that's it. Nothing else. You can't do anything else on your turn other than run away and hide. It just feels so weak to me.
How do you think everybody feels playing a fighter? You move up, you swing, and you stand there and take an attack, and then you swing, and you stand there and take an attack, and then you swing. Your damage output until you start hitting those higher levels is mostly garbage, unless you're taking, I don't remember the name of the feat, but the one that lets you reduce your attack modifier to increase your damage, with two-handers. But otherwise, most fighters, their literal only reason for existing is to stand there and just soak up damage.
See, I definitely don't think that way, and that's probably why I make a good fighter, because the fighter's job is twofold. Or really threefold. It's to protect the party, deal some damage, and position the battlefield. So with the rogue, you get in, you hit, you run away. Okay, that's just the life of being a rogue. Well, in that case, just play a ranger or something at range. That way you don't have to worry about this whole move in and move out mechanic, because they're putting out just as much damage as you are with your sneak attack because they have Hunter's Mark and extra attacks and all this other crap. So with the fighter, you get in there, your job is now to basically get everybody to you. And there are a couple of different ways of doing that depending on what you pick. The paladin I'm playing right now has an ability that literally taunts everything on the field and makes it so they can't move 30 feet away from me. So I've now limited the range of everybody around me. I didn't do any damage, but now I've limited the scope of the battlefield. And then on top of that, I now have to position myself in such a way that I can give my allies advantage when they move up to do their attacks and not put myself in advantage's sake as well. So it's almost like a game of like pseudo chess in a way. So I've limited the battlefield. I got to position myself where I won't get that many opportunity attacks and also provide advantage for everybody else. And then on top of that, my other turn is now to pick the target to focus fire. So I can either destroy something that's weak in my one single hit, or as a fighter at level 5, kill one thing straight up because 2 attacks, action short 2 attacks is just deadly. And not to mention, if I'm playing my fighter, I have all my battle master stuff, so I can trip people, disarm people. I have so much utility to
I love
control the battlefield.
I love how immediately you're like, I'm a battle master, not a champion, not samurai. No, I'm a battle master. That's it. There are no other fighter.
There are no
types.
other fighter classes. But I have the ability to control the battlefield, and that's what makes it work. With the paladin, I have to get the same mindset, but a little bit more to the how can I also provide support. So how can I basically position myself but still be within touch range for cure wounds? And it's
You
so
can
much more.
attack and you can smite, and
It's
that's
so
it.
much more interesting to me to play the fighter or a paladin or barbarian than it is to basically move in, attack one thing, hope I had advantage on that attack because the other fighters don't know how to properly play the fighter class, and then move away. And that's the same. It's the same frustration my wife had when she was playing her rogue Kenku, where the party had a couple melee people, but the melee people would never engage melee and would like run around and do stuff,
See,
and she can't do that because she needs somebody next to her target so she can hit people. And it was frustrating, and I have that same problem. So I hate rogues. Is what I'm
see,
saying.
you're also. It's still the same analogy that we used a lot of times of role play versus role play, ROLE versus ROLL. If you're playing a rogue, in third edition they were just so powerful. One critical would just do massive amounts of damage. It was a lot harder to pull off critical or like sneak attacks and stuff. But in fifth edition, it's a lot easier to pull off sneaks, but it'll do good damage. It's not generally ridiculous damage. If you want to do ridiculous damage in fifth edition, you need to be playing a ranger, or maybe even a wizard, and like especially with AOE's. But rogues have mass utility in the fact of their lock picking, their sneak checks, their ability to scout. Rangers are good scouts, but without taking certain not archetypes, but without taking certain backgrounds, you're not going to get lock picking. You're not going to have the ability to locate traps.
And I guess it's maybe this the problem with the Star
Y-
Wars setting that we're playing, because Rogue in that game
It
doesn't
is
have
different.
access to
Yes.
any of that at all. The
Yep.
astromechs do.
Yeah.
Like
And if you're doing physical locks, if you really wanted to, you could do that as a
astromech.
rogue. You can, but astromechs in Star Wars, it's not as many physical locks. It's much more electronic, which
Yeah.
is that's very much astromechs or somebody else with that skill to do it.
Hey, at least I get to play with the artificer's tools. That was like the only thing I found that was actually like tool working that would be workable. So I mean, it just, to me, a rogue is something that gets in there and in one hit takes out a crucial target. Okay, so back to our session that we were playing. I will say this as a caveat. I love playing rogues as the DM, and I think that's because I can engage with the rogues the way that I want to engage with them as a player.
It's
So
because you
that,
can stab the poor defenseless sorcerer who's standing in the back in the ankle and nearly kill him in one hit.
and
I'm not.
that's what a rogue is supposed to be.
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying.
So when that attack went off, and I, as the rogue, took you out almost into a single turn. Okay,
In a
I
single
pulled
hit.
in a single hit. Yeah, and I was able to basically pull 2 other people away from the front line while I murdered the front line with the Durgar fighters. That was the appropriate use of a rogue. But I can't do that as a player. Maybe I can at level 10, maybe I can at level 15. But let's be honest, how many campaigns get that high that's not a one-shot? And it just seems like there's so much wasted opportunity. And I will admit this is coming from me playing a rogue maybe 5 games total in my lifetime, but I can't see it being that great of a thing. I'd rather be a fighter. I'd rather be up there, even in the LARP. Okay, when I'm playing my character at the LARP, the first thing that I do is try to draw attention to me, and then basically put myself on the opposite side of the monsters from Aleph. And I can't count how many times that has happened where I've able to basically just grab 3 or 4 monsters' attention, walk around, and then now all their backs are to the rogue, and the rogue is about to go to town on them.
I will
I
personally
can't.
admit, I will admit, playing a spellcaster at the LARP, there is nothing greater than having a shield in front of me. And by a shield, I mean literally you. Because I'm a
So
spellcaster. I'm just standing back throwing things.
yeah, and I kind of know my role. Okay, I'm too big to be engaged in safely in combat most of the time. So I can just literally stand there and just be a wall. I'll take the deaths. It doesn't really hurt me that much. So, but it's just I don't know.
It,
Maybe
it is
going
that
back to
type.
the typecast.
Yeah, it is the typecast thing.
I mean, it just clicks so much better for me than it does anything else, and I think I guess maybe it's important for all the players who play the game is to, get out there and play different classes and experience them all. You know, don't play the wizard once, then write off all ranged spellcasters because the sorcerer and the warlock are entirely different, even though they share the same purpose.
Not even
And don't,
remotely the same.
yeah, and don't write off all melee just because you don't like the rogue.
Yeah,
Playing a fighter, I find so much more useful, but you could play the fighter, think being in melee sucks, and the rogue may work out for you.
for me, because I've played the fighter types, and I've played paladins, I've played barbarians. It's been years since I played fighters, but I have played them. And for me, I just get bored doing it. There's no other than the positioning of the battlefield, which every class has to learn for their specific class. There's not a lot of thought that goes into a fighter. What's the biggest, most dangerous thing on the battlefield that wants to hit my other teammates? I need to get myself between it and them. And then I'm going to do whatever damage I can. That's the mindset that I go into when I play a fighter. For me, playing a sorcerer, warlock, well, okay, not warlock, because warlocks literally have one spell, but sorcerers and wizards, I'm constantly having to assess where everything is on the battlefield. Then where do I position myself? Where do I need to be every round to hit the maximum targets with the maximum efficiency of spells? This past weekend, we were playing the Maw campaign, and yeah, basically I'm just a fire wizard. I'm Uncle Iroh, so I'm trying to constantly position myself so I'm not hitting my own teammates with fire spells or lightning bolts. Uh, and that's it's something I enjoy. It's the true strategy of the combat aspect of Dungeons and Dragons to me. Fighters, once you're sort of locked in melee with a monster, maneuvering becomes minute. There's not a lot to it. Rogues, they need to constantly be searching for position, so I do get some strategy out of that. But that's sort of
Yeah,
that's how I feel on it.
yeah, and so definitely two entirely different perspectives because I've always played the tank, and in like the glory days of World of Warcraft, that was basically where I was able to shine because tanking wasn't an easy thing. You had to generate threat, you had to position correctly, you had to also gear a very specific way to push off criticals, and there was a lot more to it than current WoW tanking, which is rush in to a predetermined path that's already been told to you by Mythic Plus people and AoE tank to your heart's content while all the DPS AoEs behind you, and make sure you interrupt every now and then.
There's people
And
do that with Dungeons and Dragons. Let me throw this out there because WoW is a thing that a lot of D&D players have played. I wonder if people, because you have the Tomb of Annihilation, so everybody's had opportunities to play through this thing, and through basic, just kind of group parsing of data over the years, have people determined the best ways to handle every single encounter in there and then spread that information online. And I'm certain there are some people, some players who do this, who metagame the shit out of it and learn that information on what's the best way to handle every encounter in this module and then go and do that as they're going through.
I'm guessing it may have happened. That was kind of what I let my players do when I ran Tomb of Annihilation, because I knew there was one who knew everything,
Hmm.
and I was just like, build the best characters you guys can. You have full reign of everything. But most of the players were brand new, so they really didn't know what they had in store from them, and it kind of turned into more of like, this is a really cool dungeon crawl, and the experienced players. Go-to method was basically walk into the room, shoot the first thing you see, and that begins the encounter. And that worked for the first 4 levels, but after the 4th level, that became the worst thing to do. So there was a little bit of a learning there, which I found was very odd. But to kind of answer your question, I haven't seen people who have done a write-up on this is how to maximize your run through TOA and how to basically always be successful.
I just figured
I
since you were on Reddit on D&D all day long, all the time, that you would have come across it if it existed.
I haven't seen it. I really haven't searched for it because I don't think that mentality really exists
It
in
shouldn't. It
Dungeons
really
and Dragons.
shouldn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is not the design for the game. I just know some people are such power gamers or number crunchers that I'm sure somebody has done it. Put all that information together. Whether they've ever thrown it out into the public sphere, who knows?
yeah.
But,
When the reason why that became a thing in World of Warcraft was um, because a lot of the original raiders in World of Warcraft were EverQuest raiders, and there was a dispute when Molten Core was happening between the high-end raiders and the developers. And they were like, we're going to show you because you're not doing what we want for these high-end raids. We're going to show you and one up you by sharing our strategies online, so everyone can go raid. And no, we're not going to keep our raiding secret, which kind of backfired and yet set the tone for World of Warcraft from then on, where now it became okay. Let's share our secrets and let's share
yeah.
everything that we're doing so we can actually beat this place. And
EverQuest was pretty insular as far as sharing secrets. Like
right,
over time, it would come out, but those early ones, like I know when they went after the sleeper initially, I was on the server with the guild that first woke the sleeper in that game, and no, there was nothing coming out. They would release the stats on the weapons, but that they got from the sleeper's corpse. But that was it, man. There was nothing else out there. They would
yeah,
keep that shit until the day they died or until that game went away.
right. And so it was very weird that they decided to one up the WoW devs and release all that stuff. So when they released it, it set the tone for okay, well, everyone has access to this. Here's the strategy. Here's the best way to do it. Okay, now that you've reviewed it and you've done it, here's a better way of doing it. And that has set the tone for the rest of WoW, where you have a couple main groups who go in there, develop the strategies to beat the boss, and then push out that data to everybody else. And that's basically how they go through and do it. Last time I was raiding, it was Jaina, and like the conversation come up was like, okay, this is how Method is doing this fight, and this is how this other guild is doing this fight. So let's try them both and find out which one works for us the best. And that's created the the rating scene of World of Warcraft, all due to the fact that they didn't want to keep the thing secret. And
Interesting. So
yeah,
yeah,
it was very
for anybody listening
so.
to this who does World of Warcraft and all, keep your damn World of Warcraft stuff to yourself. Don't go trying to parse down all the data on all the modules and find out this is the best way to do this. I mean, obviously, if you've played through them, and then you play through them again later on, I'm sure you can pick up some strategies. But if you're playing it with other people who have not played it, you really need to sort of take a back seat and let other people make decisions.
Yeah. So I think that's crucial for Dungeons and Dragons, and I think a lot of there are definitely the stories of the one person who basically the one player who goes out and buys the module book and reads it ahead of time and knows exactly what they're doing. But D&D is crafted in such a way that if the player knows everything that's coming up, D&D is built on the fact that the DM can change anything in a moment's notice because you are in control. If this guy knows the secret to the combination is red, white, yellow, blue, then you reverse the order on him and let
And
him get
watch them
hit.
and watch them fail miserably because they tried
Right.
to metagame the shit out of it.
Where I think metagaming comes in is basically that's outside of DM control is in the creation of your character. This happened a lot in fourth edition where you would go to the forums, the official D&D forums, and you'd be like, okay, what's the highest DPR paladin that I can build? And you would find a paladin guide, and through the hundreds upon hundreds of choices and feats and skill setups and magic items, you would have this entire blog written out for you saying, okay, pick this one if you want DPR, pick this one if you want to be a tank, and pick this one if you want to be a healer. Here are the magic items you need and priority list. Here are the skills you need. Here are the feats you need and priority list. And it really took the fun out of building a character because you're just copying somebody else's build and you're just making the best character that it could be without actually playing a character's role. So I think that's kind of maybe where D&D has its metagaming the worst.
That has literally been a thing since second edition. While in second edition didn't really have the internet to spread it around, but the people who played tournament style Dungeons and Dragons, you would always figure out what's the best combinations. It's continued through third edition, fourth edition. I definitely run into it in my own campaigns in fifth edition.
So it definitely exists in fifth edition, but the difference in fifth edition is that there isn't a single category that trumps everything else. So you'll actually see different players do different things. Yes, the Battle Master Fighter is the most broke class in fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Disagree, but it's the most powerful fighter for sure.
But you can very well just as easily go Great Weapon Fighter, and you're still going to be a powerhouse on the field, especially if you pick up the appropriate feats that go with it. And then there were other classes, especially with the new Tasha's book coming out, that have some new subclasses that basically kind of make the old ones kind of irrelevant. But at the same time, I think people.
Do we know if they're putting the revised Ranger in Tasha's?
I believe so.
Because that's what everybody is. I mean, in the Maw campaign, 2 people are playing the revised Ranger. I have not looked into it, so I don't know how it varies a whole lot from the other one.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it either. I'm pretty sure that's in there. But I know they have a bunch of other subclasses like the Twilight Cleric that are like very interesting, different builds that are very powerful. It's I think that's where a lot of the metagaming kind of happens, and I'm sure there's a rogue build out there that people say, well, if you hate playing rogues, then you should have taken this talent and taken that talent and taken this build and used this weapon and done this thing. And I'll be like, that's not how I play my characters. I play something that I think makes thematic sense to the character. That's why in the Star Wars campaign, I'm playing the Charmer, and I went the Beguiling style so I can continue to charm people better.
Beguiling.
Beguiler. And so far, all we've fought was cultists that are immune to my charms and robots. So, maybe sometime in the future.
Yeah, like in the Maw, I am playing Uncle Iroh, as I've said, and evokers are powerful, but when it comes to the amount of damage that I can output, unless it's like hitting multiple targets with AoEs, I can't even come close to keeping up with the Rangers and the Rogues in that group.
Yeah.
Not even close. Like our Gloomstalker / Ranger Yeah, I think Gloomstalker is a ranger class, but he's also got a couple levels of rogue for sneak attack. And on that first round of combat at 8th level, I think we are 9th level, he's able to hit for 70 damage sometimes. That's ridiculous. I can't do 70 damage in a round ever.
Fireball.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I have to hit 3 targets and then roll pretty decent fireball to get to that amount of damage.
Yeah.
But
then that's 30
isn't
damage per character too.
Right,
so.
right. Yeah, but fortunately, I don't concern myself with it because the entirety of the game is not about damage. I'm playing the what do they call it? It's the wizard from Xanathar's. I got my book right here. The archetype. Where are you? I'm probably not going to cut this out, so you guys get to listen to me look for the war magic. Yeah, war magic, which basically you get bonuses for counterspelling. So I already understand that one of my primary focuses is going to be to handle any other wizards or spellcasters that we come across.
Yeah. So that being said, I still hate rogues. I got to figure out how to play them a little bit better without actually cheesing it and looking up. And I like looking through the abilities and kind of figuring out what works best for my character. Like I initially picked up Hex because I thought having an extra D6 on top of everything else, similar to how all the Rangers were operating, would help my damage per round.
You realize you need that bonus action every damn turn.
Well, the bonus it would only waste the first bonus action.
That's a round that you're having an issue of engaging and disengaging, though.
Right. So that didn't work out, and then pushing that to basically the bonus action to activate Zephyr Strike worked out better. So I pushed away Hex, and picked up an AoE
Explain
ability.
what Zephyr Strike is, since a lot of people do not play the Star Wars game.
It's concentration. Well, Zephyr Strike is the way D&D is. It's actually called something else in the Star Wars game.
I'm not even. I don't know what it is, but for anyone who's interested, go to sw5e.com. That's all the Star Wars rules. You can look through this stuff.
Yeah, Zephyr Strike is you basically get your movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks, and then once in a minute, you can attack with advantage no matter what. You get an extra D8 damage on top of it, and then you can move in an extra 30 feet. So I basically just use it as I activate this and keep Zephyr Strike going so I don't provoke opportunity attacks. And then when I want that extra damage, extra hit to go through, I have that happen. And as long as I maintain concentration on that, I'll have that spell going. And that has helped cover the gap, plus give me enough time to actually get away. And also now that we have a couple more droids that actually can stand in there and fight, I can position myself into them and attack better.
Yeah, so it's important as a rogue. It's vital as a rogue, unless you're an archer, to have people to stand there so that you can, actually make your attack. You need that. You need that other person in melee with them.
And in the game where I'm actually playing a paladin, we have a rogue, but there's a paladin and a barbarian and a monk. So there's always people around targets.
You have plenty of people in melee.
Yeah.
The game that we're playing in the Maw, we initially started with 5 people, and our fighter dropped out of the game. So we ran stuff this past weekend, and there's 4 of us, of which none of them are melee fighters. So we have a wizard, a cleric, and the 2 ranger / rogue characters. So just going through the tower that we went through this past weekend was a nightmare because it was basically hit and run the entire time because we don't have anybody with that armor class and hit points to stand up front and soak up the damage. The cleric sort of tanked because they have a pretty high AC, but they still don't have the hit points or the ability to properly hold a monster for long.
Yeah. So yeah, party comp is important. Rogues, they're terrible, and
For people who are listening to this who have not really played rogues, don't listen to Chris. They are not terrible. Find what you might have to play a lot of different characters to find the ones that actually define you and fit your play style, but sooner or later you will, and for some people that is rogues.
yeah, I mean, I have a couple classes that I really enjoy playing. Of course, like as we mentioned throughout this entire conversation, I'm very good at the tanky fighter types. I'm also very good at the what I call devastator builds, more from the 40k mentality, where you are a big, massive turret that you position yourself into a place and you just murderize people. And I also like playing the glass cannons that can't take a hit, but just stay far enough away to do massive damage. So those are really the three classes that I like to play. I got my melee, I got my mid range, and I got my long range kind of covered.
Yeah, I just need spells. I need lots of spells. It's that variety that I really prefer. Even in the Star Wars game, I'm having a difficult time with it because it's not my. I'm playing something very different. The Camino and Gambler, which is technically it's a bit of a rogue class. I think they call them scholars in there, but it's really more of a rogue. Uh, it doesn't really fit the game that we're running because it's heavy combat, and my character has literally no combat skills.
Yeah, but when we're not in combat, he's worked out very, very, very well. So
Yeah, he's good at all of the other stuff, crafting specifically. I think he's more akin to an artificer. That seems to be a lot more what it is.
yep, and it's definitely a lot of fun, and I'm trying to just get used to it. Um, and I know I'm
Yep.
complaining about the rogue, but ultimately, I just think in the right hands, it works out really well. I will say though that the rogue archetype that I really would like to play would be an Avenger, but they haven't brought that back. So
Well, hey, you could put that together. That's a
thinking
thing.
about it.
We can talk about this off air, but yeah, that's an idea. So one other thing I wanted to discuss, and we went over this last night when Craig was being a bad boy, but I wanted to bring it up just so that everybody listening gets to hear about this and at least get their thought on it. So, yeah, have you ever seen a player take a bonus action disengage while grappled?
I have not. I've seen people try, but the DM just shoots it down immediately.
Yeah. So if especially for a new dungeon master, players will often try things that they think they can get away with. Uh, this was tried in our game the other night, and it was tried as a joke because the player knew he wasn't going to get away with it, but he just had to throw it out there. With when you're grappled, your movement becomes 0, so you can't technically disengage because that only allows you to move up to your movement as a bonus action. I just thought it was funny. So yeah, DMs. If anyone ever tries that shit, shoot them down. Don't let them try that.
Well,
Somebody.
technically, what we decided last night is that if someone wants a bonus action disengage while grappled,
Oh yeah.
they do successfully disengage because they're just disengaging, but their speed is still 0, so there's nothing they can't move. So yes, you just wasted your bonus action on disengaging. You can't do anything. Yes, your move is 0. You can't move anywhere.
You can waste your bonus action on a disengage while being held onto if you really, really want to.
Now, if you just do it out of order, like say I'm going to bonus action disengage, then spend my action to break the grapple, and then move away, I'd give it to you because it's just
If you spend your
order.
action, yeah, if you spend your action to break the grapple, sure, yeah. But if you are grappled, your movement's 0. So unless you have something that sort of counteracts that, and I am not aware of magic items besides freedom of movement, things of that nature.
Well, what we discussed last night is you can get pushed out of a grapple.
Oh yeah,
We
yeah.
wanted to basically build a warlock, use Eldritch Blast to basically push people away from being disengaged, and you could also push people forward to help them re-engage with somebody else and help move the fighter up 10 feet.
I mean, if you have
And
a party that's willing to suck it up, or you could get a magic item where they don't take force damage or reduce force damage, and then yeah, you could definitely Eldritch Blast somebody up 10 extra feet if you want to waste part of your turn doing that.
and so, as we all know, especially from playing Magic the Gathering, as long as we have, your health pool is just a resource. So, do you want to sacrifice that 6 life to move up 10 feet? Yes, you do. Go do it.
If it would, if you are trying to engage with a monster and you have a move of 30 feet and they're 35 or 40, absolutely let the warlock blast you right in the butthole.
Yeah, I definitely I can picture a scenario where basically like the rogue moves its full movement and it's just right next to a target, you know, and can't really get there. But like if the warlock would have just hit them with Eldritch Blast the turn before and then pushed them up 10 feet, they could get that extra 2 spaces to be flanking the
Uh
target.
huh.
So
I'm gonna do this. The next game I play in. I'm playing a warlock whose primary focus is going to be to push people forward or pull them backwards.
so when I was playing 4th edition, one of my players played a Scion and they just spec'd into basically telekinesis and moving people around the field. And there is a level when you played 4th edition, you at level 1 you picked your at will powers, then you picked encounter powers, which were powers you use once an encounter, and then you had your daily powers on top of that, which you use once per long rest. Just like 5th edition with a different paint of coat,
Hmm.
coat of paint, paint of coat.
Paint of coat.
Anyways, the daily you can get at level 1 is called Living Missile. All right. Living Missile lets you do a will attack against a target. If they fail the will, or if your will attack is successful, because there's no saves in 4th edition, you could then move that target up to 60 feet. And if it hit an object, the object took a certain amount of damage, plus the person you threw, or the object would take a certain amount of damage, and then the person you threw would take another set of damage.
That's amazing.
Okay.
That's amazing. It's like the catapult spell for dummies.
Best part is it did not specify anything about the move. It just said move 60 feet.
Move them
Okay.
straight up in the air.
So you always just move straight up into the stalactite or stalagmite, whichever one's on
Hmm.
the ceiling, essentially into a spike trap for all intents and purposes. And yes, your attack hits the rock, so the attack auto exceeds. You're gonna roll better than 10. The rock takes damage, but oh no, it's rock. And then the person that you just slammed up there is going to take his damage. And then, if you're a gracious DM, give them a little bit more because, heck, there were spikes up there. And then they're going to fall 60 feet,
So
taking that damage. So at the end of the turn, you've taken all the fall damage, all the attack damage, the extra damage from stalagmites, and you're prone.
it is a carryover, that sounds like, from a prestige class from 3rd edition. I cannot remember the name of it, but basically there was a prestige class where if you had the ability to cast or perform telekinesis as a natural ability, you could focus into doing that. And as you moved up through the levels of it, it would basically give you greater abilities with telekinesis. So by the time you mastered that prestige class, you were able to just pick up somebody, toss them 60 feet through the air, slam them back to the ground, throw them off 100 yards somewhere. Yeah, like it was an amazing prestige class that I never ever got to play, but really wanted to.
No, this is just a level 1 class. Level 1
Yeah, yeah.
Scion can do this. It actually wasn't the most broken daily. The most broken daily was a cleric spell that they actually had to release an article about and saying, "Hey, you can't do this anymore," and change the actual printing in the book because it was so broken.
That's pretty
Um,
broken when you have to do that.
so I don't want to go get the reference. I want to read it exactly, but essentially it was you choose a target, not an attack, not a save, nothing like that at all. You just choose a target. They are blipped out of existence into the astral realm for 3 whole turns. While they are in the astral realm, they can spend a healing surge per turn plus some bonuses. After 3 turns, they return. Level 1 cleric spell daily. In essence, the problem that they had it right is they changed it from just target to willing creature. Because what people would do is they would use this ability on Orcus when things was going bad. Orcus is a big bad guy of 4th edition.
Yep.
Blip him out of existence for 3 whole rounds. All right.
Mop up all the undead in those 3 rounds.
Mop up all the undead, heal back up the full, do whatever else you wanted, have a little picnic. And then he would come back, and he had no healing surges. No monsters had healing surges. So he couldn't do anything but just flail around for 3 rounds.
And if he ever starts to get the advantage in the combat, you just do it again. He's gone for 3 rounds, give you time to heal.
It was a daily, so you can only use it once.
Yeah, but if you have 2 people, or a magic item, or
But speaking of kind of referencing back before, in 4th edition, like I said, this was really bad about people having particular builds that would work and be the best build you could best possibly be. There was a Battle Rager fighter that essentially their whole mechanic was every time I hit you, I get that much damage back as temporary hit points. And temporary hit points in 4th edition, kind of like 5th, kind of works like a bubble of just protective health that gets spent first. So this Battle Rager would do something like 200-300 DPR and get this 200-300 damage prevention shield around them. And then they would have all their attacks and all their abilities. So this guy built this Battle Rager specifically to go 1v1 against Orcus. And he wrote a computer simulation to run the encounter, and it never lost versus Orcus. All the undead that it could do, all the massive spells that it could do.
If you're able to just give yourself 200 extra hit points every round, I mean, you're not going to lose to anything. It's pretty much going to have to be that one shot kills you. I don't even think the 9th level spell, Power Word Kill, would do it because you're never going to be below that hit point threshold for it.
And see, that's a trick in TOA that I'm not going to spoil. To kind of go back to that point where do people release the strategies? Yeah, there is a strategy to TOA. There is a way to win, and it involves temporary hit points.
Yeah, keep your hit points high. I think that's good enough for now.
Aw. Well, hopefully Craig delivers his message this time with great speed, and we get this posted by tomorrow morning.
Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. See you next time.